Coach Laqua, congratulations, it's signing day. We've gone through it all in the gamut of whatever this year's recruiting process was, because it was quite the change. How does it feel to kind of have a moment at the end of the day to kind of take a breath and enjoy all the hard work you and your staff and all these connections that they've made to bring in and grow our Dragon football family?
Definitely a big sigh of relief. It's been, I think every year recruiting has a certain level of stress that goes with it. This year more than any, I think. But I think we all know that. That's the world we've been living in. And it's just been, we're just trying to find ways that we had to navigate through it. And I think at the end of the day, what's so exciting is that we feel like we were still able to find a group that really reflected the DNA of our program and our culture. And I think, right away when there were so many limitations and restrictions, that was a big concern. And so excited it's all said and done, and we got the guys that we wanted to get, and the guys that we feel like are great matches for our program are going to work their tails off going forward.
So let's start at the beginning. Each year you begin the signing day process and recruitment process and kind of assessing your team's needs, but we didn't have a season to kind of feel those things out. How in the world do you determine the needs of your team without having been able to see them play and perform and find those gaps of where you need to kind of get some more guys and some depth?
Yeah, definitely a challenge. I think, one thing for us that works out pretty well is, Coach Needham as recruiting coordinator. We've kind of always adapted that approach, and we're looking 2 years in advance, really. And so it kind of is allowed to stay at least on that picture of knowing that a lot of guys are going to redshirt. We're trying to anticipate holes, before they happen. And so I do think that, his vision has helped us with that, being able to really plan in that regards. I think obviously the immediate needs are, it's hard to tell because you don't have a season. And so, we were undefeated this year. We won every game, right? And so, maybe there's no holes, so whatever. But, with that being said, there were some challenges, a lot of projection. But I think at the end of the day, that is what recruiting is. That is the program to a certain extent. You're trying to project what guys can do, how they're going to grow, maybe some position changes. And so, we stuck with what we normally do as best we could. And I think it's worked for us.
And how do you then recruit? If you're trying to get that second year, how do you, I know some high schools, and Minnesota's a little slower to start some of their seasons and playing games and stuff. So how do you recruit? And what limitations, as you spoke about in the beginning, were you up against in trying to bring this group together?
Yeah, it was definitely a up and down recruiting cycle, because there were times where, the state of Minnesota wasn't going to play. And so, you're trying to project now off of junior film where we haven't seen them at a camp. And that kind of sped the process up for some Minnesota players. Like, well, we're not playing, so we better figure out what our next step in life is. And so they kind of moved through the process quickly and then slammed the brakes on, because then they were going to play. And the Dakotas were in this, hey, we're going, and we don't really want to think about it too much because we're playing. And so a lot of different timelines there, challenges in the sense of, we were not able to leave campus and recruit. And so this first year that, I haven't been in a school or in a home or whatever. Now, maybe not physically, but I know what Zoom is now, and able to do some of those things via Zoom, which I think was good. It's not as good as being in person, but it's certainly just fine. I think, one of the biggest challenges was just, and good things, so just single families at a time on campus. So I definitely felt like I got to spend a lot more time with each family, but the restrictions we had on, intermixing our current players with a prospect. And so getting a chance to meet them and feel comfortable around teammates, that for the most part wasn't in play. And so, I think the best thing about our program, that certainly isn't me, it's our players. And so to not be able to have the recruits be around our players and get a feel for what it really is like here and what makes this place special through the eyes of a peer, not having that was a challenge to overcome. And so, we're happy that we worked through it, and hopefully moving into the future, we can continue to have our players be the best salesmen for the program.
And one of the things that I know we spoke about last year when we were doing this was the character references. As you talk about men of character and the Dragon Way and all those things that, you're trying to bring in on top of the athlete, you're trying to find that culture fit. You talked about talking to the people at the front desk to talk about trying to understand what kind of kid they are and their reactions, and trying to get these kind of non-traditional references, if you will. How do you determine, those kind of things? Yes, you had maybe some more one-on-one, more direct personal time, but how did you manage to get those kind of character references and identify red flags before doing the offers and signing portions?
Yeah, that part was certainly more of a challenge. And, the downside of not having a season was obviously down, but it did give us a lot more time to spend on recruiting and really dig deeper, even just in interactions with guys. I think understanding, Zoom and being able to now read faces instead of text messages or phone calls, and having time for that in depth, I think certainly helped our staff from that standpoint. I think, the other thing that was interesting is, we all try and have a clear vision of what we're looking for, both on the field and off the field. But sometimes, if you see a guy at camp, which we didn't get to any camps this summer, or
right,
even you see him play, which we didn't get to see a lot of Minnesota kids play until well into the process, sometimes they can be such a good player that it can kind of cloud or distort your view. You're like, oh, yeah, he's probably okay guy. He's a really good player, and we didn't have any of that for a long time. And so the only thing that really we could use to separate recruits was the interactions we were having, and how were they? Were they consistent? Were they on point? Were there red flags? Was it always green flags? Was it always, when you're done, you're like, man, I love this guy. I want him to be on our team. I want to be around him. I think he enhances our culture, not just fits in, but enhances it. And so in reality, that became the primary measuring stick, because there was no other. And I think
right,
in the end, that worked itself out exactly how we wanted it to, because at the end of the day, obviously talent's important, but the intangible piece is that you just can't put your finger on how important that truly is to the success of the entire program.
And if fans, if you're watching and you want to kind of get to know a little bit of the inside scoop on each and every guy, go to the signing day page, MSUMDragons.com/NSD21, and you'll be able to watch the videos on each guy. And I help put those together, and listen to all your comments on each guy of those exact things. I mean, there was definitely specific things that you discussed of what you're looking for in recruits and what that individual brought. So please go through and to learn more about this class, and go watch all those videos. But can you now give us a summary of this class that just came in this morning of, let's first, I guess, start with defense. What is coming in defensively in this National Signing Day class of 2021?
I think, for the second year in a row, I really like the size overall, the length, long arm, just tall athletes that we feel like are going to grow into, who knows what positions. Maybe they're staying at linebacker, they grow into D-line, maybe they're, from safety moving down in. I think that for sure. I feel like our defensive line is maybe one of the best we've signed in a couple of years, just as far as productive on the field, but they've got a great combination of, we've got some guys that can play on the edge, that can be disruptive in the pass game and in the run game. And then you feel like you've got some interior guys that are physical, stout against the run, that play extremely hard. And I think, to be good defensively, it all starts up front. And if you can have a solid defensive line, you're in great shape. If you look at our team coming back for next year, we were going to have a lot of seniors this year. Those D linemen are returning, so we have a very senior heavy group. To be able to have these guys be molded under them, I think is certainly exciting. Really like where our linebackers are. Felt like we've got some guys that, like I said, have length and speed, athleticism, that can play kind of multiple spots. Sam, Mike, or Will, and I think some of them eventually may end up being defensive ends. An edge pressure, third down type guys. So I think the versatility is what's exciting. I think that's, when you look at where offenses are going, they have a lot of different personnel packages. You've got to match up in a lot of different ways. So you got to kind of have some some guys that can do the same thing, match up in different sets that they're in, whether it's in, basketball turns going big or going small, you got to match it the same way on the football field now.
Yeah. And so many teams throw so many different looks. You got to have that depth, that versatility for sure on the defensive side. Offensively, what kind of firepower are we looking for out there?
Well, we did feel like we've always been really talented in the skill positions, where you see a lot of, the all conference awards have gone to those guys. And the senior class that we had where guys have graduated and moved on was similar to that. And so we knew we had to replace that. I think everybody always wants to know about the quarterback position, because that is a key piece.
It's on my list of questions.
Yeah, it's a key piece. I think if you look, we've got two really good players that we're excited about. And if you look at what they've done in their high school career, as far as the amount of yards that they've thrown for, the amount of touchdowns they've thrown for, and the limited interceptions, they're accurate throwers and they're productive throwers. And I think what's exciting is if you look at, and I'm not a huge stats guy, but if you look at what they've done statistically, the opportunities they've had to play, to make throws, to make decisions, it's a huge body of work. And in the past, we've had quarterbacks have been able to be successful, but they've been in different offenses that haven't allowed as many opportunities for them to grow and develop in their high school years. And so we feel like we've got some developed quarterbacks that are coming in now because of the systems they've played in. And so that's extremely exciting. I think, we ended up, at running back, we got our top choice, which is always a good thing. And I think when we got him early, that kind of helped us focus on some other spots. From that standpoint, we feel like we're able to get a big body at receiver and match it with some speed with the smaller guys, which has always been where we have been and been able to be successful. We've always kind of had a big guy, and we've had the small, shifty, fast guys. And so I think the model that's worked for us offensively, we've matched that again in this recruiting class. And then I think the difference this year, O-line again, I think if you look at the size of the bodies of our linemen, that's where you need to be ultimately successful. You've got to be able to do that. And I think, another unique thing, we signed 2 tight ends that's a place where our offense needs to grow, needs to get better. We need to be able to control third and shorts. We need to control goal lines. We need to control running the clock out with 4 minutes. And you have to get big to do that. And so I think we've got some big bodies that are physical that will help us be able to do those things and take care of those portions of the games that are important to winning.
Yeah, I see a couple 6'6", 250 plus individuals on that O-line coming in. So that's always good to see some size up front to create some holes and move some other people.
Absolutely.
So what kind of stories stand out in this group? I would love to go in depth on each and every guy. If you want that, that's what the website's for, to go and do that. But I know there's some connections here that are more than just watching a guy play and trying to get him part of your program. What are some of those stories that stood out to you of this group?
Well, some of it, we have some brothers of players that are either current or former players. I think that's always a good sign of, that their brothers either currently or in the past had a great experience within our program. And I think, that's always been our best. Word of mouth has always been our best. It's our players that are our best recruiters, and then word of mouth as far as guys in their experience here. And if you look at our roster, you can notice over the years, it's kind of back-to-back years where we end up with guys from the same high school. And I think that means you're doing good business. And so I think that's unique to continue it, to keep it in the family. And we talk a lot about, the Dragon football as a family. And so when it truly has multiple family members,
right,
I think that's, obvious. I think, you look at one of the things Coach Rourke brought up in recruiting, and he kind of said, when we're going through, and a lot of this is on characters and our match with them. And he kind of said, what is it about them that makes us want to, go all in and bet on him? Like, he's going to make it, he's going to buy in, he's going to be a guy that in 4 to 5 years walks out of this program of being something that was special to the program, not necessarily all conference, but just made it through. And like, what does he have that makes you bet on him? And, one of the guys was, how he went in to work out early and had to find a place to work out before anyone else could, before things would get up at 4 a.m. I mean, shoot, the guy commits at 6 a.m. That's the earliest commitment we've ever had. It was after his workout, or guys that are self-made man. In quarantine, we said that about our own players, but it was effective for these recruits too. They could have just sat in and done nothing and just gone nowhere, or you could have bought in and started lifting in your garage and find a way like Rocky and right. Figure out how to work out. And that's things that we looked for and we asked, and we had guys that did that. We had guys that, they're 175 pounds as a junior and then they're up to 215 because they made a commitment to football. They made a commitment to using that time during quarantine. And that's a sign of guys that they're internally motivated. They don't need people to push them to be great. They have a desire to great. They need us to surround them with other people like that, to give them a system and a process to be able to do that. And I think we had multiple guys like that in multiple times where you would leave a meeting here with the family after there, and you're like, this guy will push our culture to a new level. Look what he's done during quarantine for himself and for his teammates. And I think that was the big eye opener for us of, yeah, we need to go all in. This is a guy we need to have right now because he'll take our culture to the next level. And so we felt like we got multiple guys like that. And that's what's really exciting about this class.
Yeah, it's interesting, the blend of talent, fit, and making sure that both are checked, and which one wins out in some conversations when you have to put the offer out and you only have so much and never enough to offer. And so it's trying to find the best blend that you can. And sometimes you lean one way, sometimes you lean the other, but I don't think you can ever go wrong with leaning towards culture.
Yeah, fit's always first for us, because at the end of the day, it's a grind. College football is a grind. I think what we see today is exciting, right? There's a lot of social media. There's a lot of, Twitter followers and hits, and that's fun, and that's great. But this is truly just the beginning. The hard work is what's really going to happen. And there's no selfie pictures of that. There's no Instagram. There's no people following you around with cameras for that. That's when the lights are off and it's dark. You got to do the work when no one looks. So when the lights do come on Saturdays in the fall or Thursday night for the home opener, that's where that work's revealed. And so, this is the beginning of the process. It's exciting, but by no means is it that anybody's arrived. There's a lot of work still to be done. And I think these guys know that, and that's why they're here. They like that. That's what they wanted in recruiting. They don't want all the flash and this or that. They know that this is work. This is the beginning of it. This is the opportunity. And they'll capitalize on it.
Well, let's talk about that Thursday night and that Saturday's game days as we look forward to 2021's football season. What does the future of Dragon football look like after not having a fall season this year?
Yeah, hope it's going to be a kind of a new team, right? Like there's going to be a lot of new faces that you might not recognize, guys that have stepped into starting roles, playing roles that maybe we're just redshirt, or maybe are just here right now for the first time. And so I think everybody will have a little different view. I think the exciting piece is, while there are restrictions, it has changed the way we've been able to practice. And so we can do some things to better develop our guys, I think, which we've capitalized on. This spring, we've got a couple joint kind of practices and scrimmages set up, kind of like an NFL preseason would be, things you never have opportunity to do. So we got a chance to get some better work as far as development than you can just against yourself. So I think that part's exciting. And then, obviously it's all trying with the goal in mind to be ready to play next fall. It's not about playing games, and for us winning 3 games this spring, it's about preparing our team to put them in position to win when we get to the fall, when the championship series opens back up. And that's the driving force behind why we're training and the timeline we're training behind.
Final words on the class of 2021.
Pumped up. I think a lot of craziness to the year, but a lot of resiliency was shown in the process. And I think these guys showed it. And I think that's really what we're about. We're a find a way attitude, blue collar, chip on your shoulder type people. And these guys had COVID and quarantines thrown at them. And so they had a chip on their shoulder. They went blue collar. They found a way and figured out, how are we going to keep doing what we're doing and take it to the next level. And so in essence, while it created so many challenges, it also opened the door and shined the light on exactly the type of kids that we want and that make it here. And so believe it or not, I think it was a bit of a blessing, and, time will tell. We'll see how these guys pan out, but I think they've been molded and been able to show what the things that we need, the things that we want, the things that we are. And so that's what I'm excited most about.
It's a great mindset to take, Coach. Thanks for joining us today, and congratulations on a lot of hard work today.
You bet. Thank you.